After my husband passed away, my son brought his wife into my house and told me, "She's going to live here and teach you how to take care of the house properly." I laughed in his face. In my house? The house I bought with my own money? With my sweat from 30 years of working as a cleaner, double shifts, broken knees and cracked hands. My daughter-in-law, Vivian, raised her purse as if she was going to hit me. I saw it in her eyes. That glare of rage, that impulse to humiliate me. But she regretted it quickly. She lowered her hand, because something in my gaze told her it wasn't going to be that easy. My name is Mary Johnson. I am 60 years old, and that day, 3 weeks after burying the man I built my life with, I learned that the greatest pain doesn't come from the dead. It comes from the living. Robert, my only son, showed up that morning without calling. I heard the key in the lock while I was in the kitchen, cleaning plates I hadn't even used. Since my husband died, cooking seemed pointless. Who was I going to cook for? Just for myself. For this silence that filled every corner of the house. He walked in with firm steps, stomping on the floor that I myself had varnished 15 years ago. He came with Vivian. She was carrying 2 large bags. I came out to meet them with my apron still on, smelling of detergent and loneliness. "Good morning, son." He didn't even return my greeting. He put the bags on the floor, right on the rug I bought with my first paycheck. Vivian took off her shoes without asking me permission and sat on my couch as if it were already hers. "Mum, we need to talk." His voice was cold. It was not the voice of the boy I raised. It was the voice of a man who had rehearsed a speech and wasn't going to stop until he finished it. I sat across from them. I was still trying to understand what was happening. "What is it, Robert?" "Vivian is going to help you." "Help me? With what?" Vivian leaned forward. She had that fake smile women use when they want to appear nice, but are really sizing you up to see where to land the first blow. "Mary, I know you've been through a difficult time, but now you need support. Someone to teach you how to manage this house correctly." I stared at her without blinking. Teach me? Me? How to care for the house that I built with my own hands? I felt something hot rising in my throat. It wasn't tears, it was fury. "I don't understand, Vivian. Teach me what exactly?" She sighed, as if she were talking to a stubborn child. "How to clean well, how to organize, how to cook something decent. Robert told me that since his father died, this house has been neglected, that you're not pulling your weight." I looked at my son. I expected him to say something, to defend me, to tell that woman she was crazy, but Robert only looked at the floor, like a scolded dog, like a coward. And that's when I understood everything. My son was no longer mine. That woman had taken him. She had turned him into a stranger. Vivian continued speaking. "So I'm going to move in here for a while. I'm going to teach you how to do things right. Because let's be honest, Mary, you can't do it alone." Something inside me exploded. I got up from the couch. Slowly, very slowly. Vivian stopped smiling. Robert looked up. For the first time in that conversation, they were really looking at me. And then I laughed. It wasn't a nervous laugh. It wasn't a scared laugh. It was a real laugh. Deep. Full of everything I had been holding in for 3 weeks. Full of pain. Full of rage. Full of something they didn't expect. "You? Teach me? In my house?" Vivian frowned. "Yes, Mary. In this house. Because clearly you don't know how." I interrupted her. "In my house that I bought with my own money? With the 30 years I spent cleaning offices, bathrooms, and other people's floors while you weren't even born? With the knees I ruined scrubbing stairs so that my son could have clean clothes and hot food every day. My voice sounded strange, louder than I expected. Vivian stiffened. Robert was still quiet, but now he was pale. I built this house, Vivian, brick by brick, payment by payment. Every piece of furniture you see here I bought. Every plate, every sheet, every nail in these walls has my sweat on it. Vivian got up from the couch. Her face was red. Her fists were clenched. Don't talk to me like that, Mary. I'm your son's wife. I deserve respect. I walked closer to her. I wasn't scared. Not anymore. Respect is earned, girl. It's not demanded. That was it. That's what made her explode. Vivian raised her purse. I saw it coming. That quick movement, that arm lifting to hit me in the face. But I didn't move. I stood there, looking her straight in the eye. And something in my gaze stopped her. She lowered the purse. She was breathing hard, trembling with rage. Robert finally spoke. Mom, don't talk to Vivian like that. I looked at him. My son, the child I gave birth to, the child I raised alone when his father worked nights, the child I made breakfast for every day for 18 years, the child I worked until my bones ached for. And me, Robert, how does she talk to me? He didn't know what to say. He stood there between the two of us, not knowing who to obey, and that hurt me more than any punch. Vivian grabbed her bags from the floor. This isn't over, Mary. Robert, let's go. They slammed out of my house. The silence that remained afterward was heavy, dense. I sat on the couch and looked around. Everything was the same. But I was no longer the same. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with the lights off, thinking about everything. How I had ended up here. How my own son had betrayed me. How that woman had tried to hit me in my own house. And I also thought about something else. Something that chilled my blood. What else were they planning? The following days were strange. Robert didn't come back. He didn't call. He didn't text. It was as if that slammed door had closed something more than the door to my house. It had closed any trace of what we once were as mother and son. I continued with my routine. I got up early. I made coffee I didn't drink. I cleaned rooms that no one messed up. But my mind wouldn't stop. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened, about Vivian's words, about Robert's silence, about that moment when she lifted her purse to hit me. And then I started to remember. It wasn't all at once. It was little by little. Like when you find an old photo and suddenly 1,000 more memories come flooding back. I started seeing patterns, signs, things I ignored at the time because a mother always wants to believe the best about her child. The first time I noticed something strange was 2 years ago. It was my birthday. I was turning 58. Robert had promised to come for lunch. I prepared his favorite meal, baked turkey with mashed potatoes, fresh salad, pecan pie that took me all morning to make. I set the table nicely. I took out the good plates, the ones we only used for special occasions. My husband was still alive. He was also waiting for Robert. We both sat down to wait. An hour passed, then 2. I called Robert 3 times. No answer. I sent texts. Nothing. The food got cold. My husband hugged me and told me he must have had an emergency at work. I wanted to believe him. At 7 o'clock that evening, Robert finally called. Sorry, Mum. My day got complicated. I promise I'll come next week. His voice sounded normal. It didn't sound guilty. It didn't sound regretful. It sounded as if forgetting your mother's birthday was nothing important. No problem, son. I love you. I hung up the phone and cried silently as I threw the food in the trash. But that was just the beginning. After that, the cancellations became frequent. He always had an excuse. There was always something more important, a last-minute meeting, a commitment with Vivian's family, a headache, tiredness, traffic. I always understood. I always told him not to worry, that the important thing was that he was okay. But inside, something was breaking. Then came Christmas last year, the last Christmas we spent with my husband alive. I had asked Robert to come for dinner. I begged him. My husband was already sick. We already knew he didn't have much time left. I wanted one last Christmas together, all three of us, as a family. Robert said yes. He promised he would be there. I prepared everything weeks in advance. I bought presents. I decorated the house. I cooked for 2 days straight. I made prime rib, green bean casserole, apple cobbler, everything Robert liked as a child. My husband helped me with what he could. He was so weak he could barely stand. But he also wanted that dinner. He also wanted to see his son. The table was ready at 8 o'clock at night. The candles were lit. The food was hot. My husband sat in his chair with the portable oxygen next to him, waiting. 8:30, 9, 9:30. I called Robert. No answer. I sent texts. Nothing. At 10 o'clock at night, my husband slowly got up. He looked at me with those tired eyes that no longer had a spark. "Let's eat, Mary. He'll come another day." But we both knew there was no another day, that this was the last chance. We ate in silence, the table full of food, only 2 people, a huge void where our son should have been. The next day, Robert sent me a text. "Sorry, Mom. Vivian organized a dinner with her family and I couldn't get out of it. Happy Christmas." He didn't come to visit us throughout December. Not in January, not in February. My husband died in March. Robert came to the funeral. He cried. He hugged the casket. He said he loved his father. But he didn't visit him when he was alive. He wasn't there when we needed him most. And I forgave him. Because mothers always forgive. Because I thought the pain would change him, that his father's death would make him come back to me. I was wrong. I kept remembering. More things kept coming, more details I had ignored. Like that time I saw him at the supermarket. I was buying vegetables. I saw him across the aisle with Vivian. I raised my hand to wave, but he quickly looked away, as if he hadn't seen me. Vivian grabbed his arm and led him down another aisle. I stood there, my hand still raised, feeling invisible. Or like when I called him because the kitchen pipe had broken. My husband had just died. I didn't know who to call. Robert told me he was busy, to call a plumber. He sent me a number in a text and hung up. I had to pay $200 that I didn't have. I had to take money out of the funeral savings. Or like when I invited him to my house for his birthday. I told him I had made him a cake, that I wanted to see him. He said maybe, that he would see if he could. He never arrived. I saw on his social media that he had gone to an expensive restaurant with Vivian and her friends. In the photo, he was smiling, happy, surrounded by people who were not me. All those times, I had found excuses. I told myself it was normal, that sons grow up, that they make their own lives, that you can't expect them to always be with you. But now, sitting in my empty living room, I understood the truth. It wasn't that Robert was busy, it was that Robert was erasing me, and it wasn't recent. It hadn't started after my husband's death. It had started much earlier, since he married Vivian. She had slowly alienated him, with comments, with plans, with excuses, and he had let her. I got up from the couch and went to my room. I opened the closet and took out an old shoebox I kept on the top shelf. Inside, I had photos, memories, letters Robert had written to me when he was a child. I took out a photo from when he was 7 years old. We were both in the park. He had ice cream on his face. I was hugging him. We were both laughing. Where had that child gone? I put the photo away and kept searching. I found another one. It was from his college graduation day. I was so proud. I had worked extra shifts for 4 years to pay for his studies. I had broken my back cleaning offices so he wouldn't have to worry about the money. In the photo, he was hugging me. He was whispering in my ear, "Thank you, Mum. Everything I am is because of you." I closed the box. I couldn't keep looking. It hurt too much. That night I didn't sleep either. I stayed up thinking about everything, about every detail, about every lie, about every time they made me feel like I was the problem, that I was the one exaggerating, that I was the one asking for too much. But it wasn't true. I wasn't asking for too much. I was only asking for the minimum. A call, a visit, a little time, a little love. And they didn't even give me that. I got up and went to the kitchen. I made tea. I sat by the window and looked at the empty street. It was Luke 3, Joe, 0 foot in the morning. There was no one outside, just me and my thoughts. And then I realized something. Vivian hadn't come to my house that day to help me. She had come for something else, to test something, to see how far she could go, to see if I would let her. And when I laughed, when I confronted her, when I didn't let myself be humiliated, when she lifted that purse and I didn't move, she lost there. But this wasn't over. I knew that. Women like Vivian don't give up easily, and men like Robert, so weak, so easily manipulated, can do anything if someone tells them it's the right thing to do. I finished my tea. I washed the cup. I went back to my room. But before going to bed, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I opened the drawer of my nightstand and took out an old notebook. A notebook where my husband and I kept important documents. I slowly flipped through the pages, deeds, receipts, bills. Everything was there, everything in order, everything in my name. I closed the notebook and put it back. If something was coming, I was going to be ready. 5 days passed without any word from Robert. 5 days of silence that felt like an eternity. I continued my routine. I cleaned, I cooked little, I slept less. But something had changed in me. I was no longer sad. I was no longer confused. I was awake. Awake in a way I hadn't been in years. I realized I had spent so much time justifying my son, protecting him, believing in him, that I stopped protecting myself. I stopped seeing things as they were. I let them make me feel guilty for wanting love, for wanting respect, for wanting what any mother deserves. But no more. One morning, while drinking coffee in the kitchen, I heard a car stop in front of my house. I looked out the window. It was Robert. He was alone, without Vivian. That surprised me. I thought that after what happened he wouldn't come back, or that if he did, it would be with her, with reinforcements. But no, he was alone. He got out of the car slowly. He closed the door carefully. He walked toward the entrance of the house as if he were treading on broken glass. He rang the doorbell. That also surprised me. He had a key. He always used his key. But this time he rang the doorbell, like a stranger. I opened the door. We looked at each other in silence for a few seconds. He had dark circles under his eyes. He looked tired, nervous. He put his hands in his pockets and looked down. "Hi, Mum." "Hello, Robert." Another silence. Awkward. Heavy. I wasn't going to make things easy for him. Not anymore. Can I come in? It's your decision. He walked in slowly. He looked around as if it were the first time he had seen the house. He sat on the couch without me inviting him. I remained standing, waiting. I wasn't going to talk until I knew what he wanted. Mum, I need to talk to you. I'm here. He ran his hands over his face. He took a deep breath. It seemed like he was searching for the right words, or maybe he was remembering the speech Vivian had prepared for him. What happened the other day? It was wrong. What part exactly? I looked him straight in the eye. I wanted him to say it. I wanted to hear it from his mouth. All of it. Vivian was out of line. She shouldn't have spoken to you like that, and I shouldn't have allowed it. But you did allow it, Robert. You stayed silent while your wife disrespected me in my own house, while she told me I don't know how to care for the place I built myself. He looked down again. He always did that when he didn't want to face the truth. I know, and I'm sorry. You're sorry? Or did Vivian send you to say you're sorry? He looked up quickly, surprised, as if he hadn't expected me to say that. No, Mum. I'm saying this. Vivian doesn't even know I'm here. That made me doubt a little. Maybe it was true. Maybe he had come on his own. Maybe something was left of the son I raised. But I couldn't trust him yet. Not after everything. And what do you want, Robert? What do you expect me to do? To act like nothing happened? No, I just want us to talk. To fix this. I finally sat down, but not on the couch with him. I sat in the chair on the other side, keeping distance, keeping control. All right, let's talk. Tell me one thing, Robert. Why did you bring Vivian that day? Why did you tell me she was going to teach me how to care for my house? He shifted uncomfortably on the couch. I thought you needed help. Since Dad died, you've been alone. I thought it would be good for you to have company, someone to help you with things around the house. Someone to teach me, you said. Not someone to help me. You told me she was going to teach me, as if I didn't know, as if I were incapable. I didn't mean to say it like that. But you did say it like that, Robert, and Vivian made it very clear. She didn't come to help me. She came to take control, to tell me how I should live in my own house. The silence returned. He looked small now, shrunken on the couch, like a scolded child. But I didn't feel pity, not anymore. Mum, I know things have been weird between us. I know I haven't been present like I should be, but I want to fix it. I want us to be family again. Family? When was the last time you acted like family, Robert? When was the last time you called me just to see how I was doing? When was the last time you came to visit me without me asking? He didn't answer, because he had no answer. Do you remember my birthday 2 years ago? I prepared your favorite meal. I waited all day. You didn't show up. You didn't even call until night. That was a long time ago. Mum, do you remember the last Christmas with your father? I asked you to come. I begged you. He was dying, Robert. And you didn't show up. You preferred to go to dinner with Vivian's family. His face changed. It turned red. He clenched his fists. It's not fair to throw that in my face now. You know what's not fair, son? That your father died waiting for you. That I became a widow, and 3 weeks later you showed up here with your wife to tell me I don't know how to care for my own house. That's not fair. He got up from the couch. He started walking in circles. He was nervous, angry, but not at me. He was angry because he knew I was right. I didn't come here to fight, Mum. I don't want to fight either, Robert. But I'm also not going to keep pretending that everything is okay. Not anymore. He stopped in front of me. He looked at me with those eyes that were once those of a sweet child, but now they were the eyes of a confused man, lost. What do you want me to do? Tell me what you want and I'll do it. I want you to tell me the truth. Why have you been pulling away from me? Why did you stop visiting me? Why did you stop calling me? Was it your idea, or was it Vivian's idea? He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. He stood there, silent, searching for words he couldn't find. And that's when I knew the answer. Vivian, I whispered. It was her, wasn't it? She's been filling your head. She's been telling you things about me. It's not like that, Mum. Then tell me how it is, Robert. Explain to me why my son, the child I raised alone while his father worked, the child I gave everything to, now treats me as if I were a burden, as if I were a problem to be solved. Tears started falling. I couldn't stop them. But they weren't tears of weakness. They were tears of rage, of pain, of everything I had been holding in. Robert came closer. He tried to hug me, but I moved away. No, Robert, you can't fix it with a hug. Not after all this. He dropped his arms. He looked defeated, lost, but he still wasn't telling me the truth. He was still protecting Vivian. I think you should leave, I told him. Mum, please. Leave, Robert. Come back when you're ready to tell me the truth, when you're ready to be my son again. He stood there for a few more seconds, waiting for me to change my mind, but I didn't. Finally, he walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned around. I love you, Mum. I love you too, son. But love isn't enough when there's no respect. He left and closed the door behind him. I heard the car start. I heard him drive away, and I stood there, standing in my living room, feeling the silence again. But this time the silence was different. It wasn't empty. It wasn't sad. It was firm. It was determined. Because I had set a boundary. For the first time in a long time, I had said no to my son. I had told him that I also deserved respect, that I also mattered, and that made me feel strong. That night, while I was making dinner, the phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. I hesitated to answer, but something told me to do it. Hello? Mrs. Mary Johnson? Yes, this is me. Who is this? My name is David Miller. I'm a lawyer. I need to speak with you about an urgent matter related to your house. My heart stopped. My house? What about my house? I prefer to speak in person, Mrs. Johnson. Could I meet with you tomorrow? It's important. I swallowed. I felt a chill. All right. Come tomorrow at 10 o'clock. I'll be there. Thank you, ma'am. I hung up the phone. I kept staring at the wall. What was happening? Why did a lawyer want to talk to me about my house? And then I knew it. This wasn't over. Something bigger was coming. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the lawyer's call. What did he want to tell me about my house? Why was it so urgent? 1,000 thoughts went through my head. None of them good. At Luke 6, Geo 0 foot in the morning, I was already up. I showered. I dressed carefully. I wanted to look presentable, strong. I made coffee and sat down to wait. The hours passed slowly. Every minute felt like an eternity. At exactly 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and saw a man around 40 years old. Grey suit, black briefcase, glasses. He had a serious but kind face. He extended his hand. Good morning, Mrs. Johnson. I'm David Miller. Come in. I showed him into the living room. I offered him coffee. He accepted. We sat across from each other. He took some papers out of his briefcase. I waited in silence. My heart was pounding. Mrs. Johnson, I came because I received a very strange inquiry 2 weeks ago. A woman named Vivian Chavez contacted me. I felt my stomach sink. Vivian? Yes. She told me she was your daughter-in-law. She asked me to investigate the legal situation of this property. She wanted to know if there was any way for her and your son to claim rights to this house. I froze. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Claim rights to my house? David nodded. His expression was serious. She told me you were elderly, that you couldn't take care of yourself anymore, that you needed help. She asked me if there was any legal figure that would allow them to take control of the property for health or mental incapacity reasons. I felt my face burn. The rage rose in my throat like fire. Mental incapacity? I'm perfectly fine. How dare that woman say that? I know, Ma'am. That's why I'm here. When she made that inquiry, something didn't seem right to me. I asked her for documentation, medical certificates, something to support what she was saying. She never sent them to me, so I decided to investigate on my own. Investigate what? Her, Vivian Chavez. David took more papers out of his briefcase. He put them on the table between us. I found something you need to know. Vivian has done this before. What do you mean she's done this before? 4 years ago, Vivian was married to another man, an older man, a widower, with his own house. She married him. 6 months later, the man began to show signs of dementia. Vivian got a doctor to declare him incompetent. She took control of his finances, of his house. The man ended up institutionalized in a nursing home. Vivian sold the house and kept the money. 2 months later, she filed for divorce. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. I could only look at him while he kept talking. The man died the following year, alone, in that nursing home, without family, without anything. And Vivian disappeared with all his assets. And no one stopped her. No one did anything. The man's family tried to sue, but by that time the papers were in order. Vivian had been smart. Everything was legal. Technically, she hadn't stolen anything. She had only taken advantage of the situation. I put my hands to my face. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And my son? Does Robert know this? David shook his head. I don't think so. Vivian is very careful. She looks for vulnerable men, men who need someone, men who are alone, or who have just lost someone. Your son lost his father recently, didn't he? Yes, 3 months ago. There it is. She found him at a weak moment. She seduced him. She convinced him that she was what he needed. And now she's doing the same thing with you. She wants the house, Mrs. Johnson. That's her goal. It has always been her goal. Tears began to fall. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were of fury, of helplessness, of pain for my son, for my family, for everything. Why are you telling me this? Why did you come all this way? Because when Vivian contacted me, I knew something wasn't right. I investigated. I found her history. And I couldn't stay silent. I couldn't let her do to another family what she already did to others. Are there more cases? At least 2 that I could confirm. There are probably more. She changes cities. She changes her name sometimes. She uses different last names. She's an expert at this. I wiped my tears. I tried to think clearly. What can I do? How do I stop her? First, We need to make sure this house is completely protected. Are the papers in your name? Yes, everything is in my name. My husband and I bought this house 30 years ago. When he died, everything passed to me. I have the deeds. I have everything. Good. That's good. But we need to do something more. We need a clear will. We need documents that show you are in full use of your mental faculties. We need to legally shield everything so Vivian can't do anything. David took a card from his pocket and handed it to me. This is my card. I can help you with all of that. Free of charge. Consider it a pro bono service. I can't allow this woman to keep destroying families. I took the card with trembling hands. Thank you. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. You just have to protect yourself. And protect your son. My son? How do I protect him? He's blinded by her. He won't believe me. Then we have to show him the truth. With evidence, with documents, with facts he can't deny. David pushed the papers toward me. Take this, read it. Everything is here. The names of the previous victims, the dates, the legal documents, everything you need to know about who Vivian Chavez really is. I took the papers carefully. They were thick, many pages, many pieces of evidence. Can I take this to Robert? You can, but I advise you to protect yourself first. Secure the house, make the will, gather your own documents, and then confront your son. Because when he sees this, everything is going to explode, and you need to be prepared. David stood up. He put the rest of his papers in the briefcase. I'll call you tomorrow to start with the paperwork. In the meantime, don't tell anyone. Not Robert. Not Vivian. No one can know that I came here. Why? Because if Vivian finds out that you know the truth, she's going to speed up her plans. And we don't know what she's capable of when she feels cornered. A chill ran down my spine. Do you think she might hurt me? I don't know, but I don't want to find out. Be careful, Mrs. Johnson. Lock the doors well. Don't let her into your house. And if you notice anything strange, anything at all, call me immediately. I nodded. I felt dizzy. This was all too much. David walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned around. You'll be fine, ma'am. You're stronger than you think. And now you have the truth on your side. That's the most powerful thing you can have. He left. I locked the door. I leaned against it. The papers were in my hands, heavy, full of horrible truths. I went to the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water. I drank slowly. I tried to calm myself. I tried to process everything I had just heard. Vivian was a scammer, a predator. She had destroyed families. She had left a man to die alone in a nursing home. And now she wanted to do the same to me. She wanted my house. She wanted to take me out of my own life. And my son had no idea. I sat at the kitchen table. I opened the papers David had given me. I started reading. Every page was worse than the last. Photos of Vivian with different men, marriage certificates, divorce certificates, property sale deeds, complaints that never went anywhere, testimonies from destroyed families. Everything was there. Black on white, irrefutable. I reached a page that made me stop. It was an old photo. Vivian was younger, maybe 25 years old. She was next to an older man. He was smiling. He looked happy. Below the photo, it said, Richard Stone, 68 years old, married to Vivian for 8 months, declared incompetent, institutionalized, died alone. I looked at the photo for a long time. That man had been someone. He had had a life, a house, dreams. And Vivian took it all away from him. I wasn't going to let her do the same to me. I put the papers away in a safe place. I hid them at the back of my closet, inside an old box that no one would check. The rest of the day I spent in silence, thinking, planning. I knew I had to act fast, but I also had to be smart. I couldn't make mistakes. That night, while I was having dinner alone, my phone rang. It was Robert. I hesitated to answer, but I did. Hello? Mom, it's me. Can we talk? Now is not a good time, Robert. Please, Mum. Just 5 minutes. I sighed. All right. Speak. I want you to come to my house for dinner tomorrow. Vivian and I want to talk to you. We want to fix things. I felt a knot in my stomach. A dinner? With Vivian? After everything I had just discovered? I don't know, Robert. Please, Mum. It's important. We want to start over. We want us to be family again. His voice sounded sincere, desperate. But I already knew the truth. I knew this wasn't his idea. It was hers. It was another play. All right, I finally said. I'll go. Really? Yes, what time? At 7 o'clock. I'll text you the address. I'll be there. I hung up the phone. My heart was pounding. I knew that dinner was a trap. I knew Vivian was planning something. But I was planning too. I was going to go to that dinner. But I wasn't going as a victim. I was going with the truth in my hands, and with David Miller as backup. Because if Vivian wanted to play games, I knew how to play too. And this time I held all the cards. The next day, I called David Miller early in the morning. I told him about the dinner invitation. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Don't go alone, he finally said. It's too dangerous. I have to go, David. If I don't go, they'll suspect. They'll know something has changed. Then let me accompany you. I can wait for you outside. In the car. Just in case. I thought for a moment. It made sense. I didn't know what to expect from that dinner. I didn't know how far Vivian was capable of going. All right, but let's keep this discreet. I don't want them to know you're there. Understood. Text me the address and I'll meet you there at 7 o'clock. I spent the day preparing, not just emotionally, also practically. I went to the bank. I asked for certified copies of all the deeds to my house. I asked for bank statements. I asked for every document that proved I was the legitimate owner of my property and that I was in full use of my faculties. The bank employee looked at me strangely. Is everything all right, Mrs. Johnson? Yes, I just want to have everything in order. A lie. Nothing was all right. But I couldn't tell that to a stranger. Then I went to the notary's office. I asked the notary to draw up a document certifying that I was mentally and physically capable, that no one was pressuring me, that all my decisions were mine. Ma'am, this is very unusual, the notary told me. Is there a problem? I just want to protect myself. I want it to be clear that no one can make decisions for me without my consent. She nodded. She didn't ask any more questions. She made the document for me. I signed it. She sealed it. She gave me 3 copies. I returned home with all those papers. I stored them along with the ones David had given me. Now I had a complete file. Evidence, documents, truths. At Luxauzo Hongfoot in the evening, I started getting ready. I put on a simple but elegant dress, wine colour. I did my hair. I put on a little makeup. I wanted to look dignified, strong, not like a victim. Before leaving, I put copies of some documents in my purse, just in case. Just in case I needed to show Robert something. Just in case I needed to defend myself. At Luke Sexjo 25 foot, I left my house. David was already waiting for me on the corner, in a grey car, discreet. I walked up to his window. Ready? As much as I can be. Remember, I'll be out here. If something goes wrong, if you feel you're in danger, call me. Or run out. Whatever. But don't stay there if things get ugly. Understood. And Mary, one more thing. Be strong, but be smart. Don't reveal everything you know. Observe first. Listen. Let them talk. People always give themselves away when they talk too much. I nodded. He was right. I couldn't go in there and throw all the cards on the table. I had to play this smartly. I arrived at Robert's apartment at exactly 7 o'clock. It was a small apartment, nothing fancy, nothing compared to my house. That made me think. If Robert had so little, why had Vivian married him? The answer was obvious. She didn't marry him. She married the possibility of taking my house. I rang the doorbell. I heard footsteps inside. The door opened. It was Robert. He was smiling, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "Mom, thank you for coming. I'm here." I walked in. The apartment smelled of home-cooked food. The table was set. Everything looked very neat, very planned. Vivian came out of the kitchen. She was wearing an apron. She was also smiling. It was also fake. "Mary, it's so good you came. I hope you're hungry. I made your favorite dish." My favorite dish? You don't even know what my favorite dish is, I thought to myself. Not out loud. Not yet. I still had to play the game. "Thank you, Vivian." The three of us sat at the table. Robert poured wine. Vivian brought the food, chicken with rice, salad, bread. Everything looked good. But I wasn't hungry. My stomach was tight. We ate in silence for a few minutes, uncomfortable. No one knew how to start the conversation. Finally, Robert spoke. "Mum, we asked you to come because we want to apologize. What happened the other time was very wrong. Vivian and I have talked about it, and we want to start over." I looked at Vivian. Her head was down. She was playing with the food on her plate. "Is that true, Vivian? Do you want to apologize?" She looked up. Her eyes were cold, but her voice was sweet. "Yes, Mary. I crossed the line. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. I was worried about you, about your well-being, but I understand that you took it the wrong way. I'm sorry." Fake. Everything was fake. I could see it on her face. I could feel it in the air. Worried about me? Is that why you said I didn't know how to take care of my house? Is that why you tried to hit me? The atmosphere became tense. Robert shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Vivian stopped smiling. "I wasn't going to hit you, Mary. I was just frustrated." "You raised your purse at me, Vivian. I was there. I saw it. It was an impulse, a moment of madness. But I wouldn't have done it. I would never hurt you." Liar. I knew she was a liar. I knew what she had done before. I knew what she was capable of. "All right," I finally said. "I accept your apology." Robert let out the breath he was holding. Vivian smiled again. They thought they had won, that they had convinced me, that I was foolish enough to believe them. But I knew how to act, too. We continued eating. The conversation became lighter. Robert told me about his job. Vivian talked about some friends. I nodded. I smiled. I pretended everything was fine. After dinner, while Robert was clearing the plates, Vivian approached me in the living room. "Mary, there's something else we wanted to talk to you about." Here it comes, I thought. Here comes what they really wanted. Robert returned from the kitchen. He sat next to Vivian. They both looked at me. There was something in their faces, something that put me on high alert. "Mom, we've been thinking. Living alone isn't good for you, especially after Dad's death. You need company. You need support. I see. And what do you propose? Vivian took Robert's hand. They looked at each other. Then they looked at me. We want to move in with you, Vivian said. Into your house. That way we can take care of you. That way you're not alone. There it was. The real plan. They wanted to get into my house. They wanted access. They wanted to start the process of taking me out of my own life. I stayed silent, counting to 10 in my mind, controlling myself. I don't know if that's a good idea, I finally said. Why not? It's a big house. It has space. And that way we would all be together, as a family. Robert nodded. Think about it, Mum. You wouldn't have to be alone. I'd be there. Vivian would be there. It would be like before. Like before what? Before they abandoned me? Before they forgot me? Before they tried to take everything away from me? I need to think about it, I said. It's a big decision. Vivian tensed up. She didn't like my answer. What is there to think about, Mary? We're family. Families live together. Not all families, Vivian, and not in all circumstances. The silence became heavy. Robert looked at Vivian. Vivian looked at me. There was rage in her eyes, rage she was trying to hide. All right, she finally said. Take your time. But think about it carefully, because it's not healthy for you to be alone at your age. I'm 60 years old, Vivian, not 80. I can still take care of myself. I stood up. I grabbed my purse. Thank you for dinner, but I think it's time for me to leave. Robert quickly stood up. I'll drive you, Mum. No need. I took a taxi to come. I'll take one to go back. I walked out of the apartment before they could stop me. I hurried down the stairs. My heart was pounding. I needed to get out of there. I needed air. David was waiting in the car. When he saw me, he opened the passenger door. Get in. Quick. I got in. I closed the door. I took a deep breath. What happened? They wanted to move into my house. That was their plan. Get into my house. Take control, little by little. David nodded. He didn't seem surprised. It's her modus operandi. First they gain trust. Then they move in. Then they start isolating the victim, controlling the finances, making legal changes, until the person is completely defenseless. I'm not going to let that happen. I know. That's why we're going to act fast. Tomorrow we go to the notary. We're going to draw up a sealed will. We're going to put the house in a trust. We're going to make sure no one can take it away from you. Not Robert, not Vivian, no one. And after that? After that, we show your son who the woman he married really is. And if he doesn't believe you, he'll believe us. Because we're not going with just words. We're going with evidence, with documents, with witnesses, with everything. David drove me home. Before I got out, he handed me an envelope. What is this? More information about Vivian. I got testimonies from the previous families. They are willing to talk. They are willing to testify if necessary. I took the envelope. It was heavy. It was full. Thank you, David. I don't know how to thank you for all this. You don't have to thank me. You just have to protect yourself. And let me help you. I entered my house. I locked the door. I went straight to my room. I opened the envelope. There were letters, handwritten testimonies, photos, more legal documents. I read every one. Heartbreaking stories, destroyed families, elderly people abandoned, stolen assets. And in the center of everything, always the same woman. Vivian Chavez, with different last names, with different stories, but always the same pattern. I put everything away with my other documents. Now I had a complete file, a solid case, irrefutable proof. Tomorrow I would start shielding my house, protecting my assets. And then, the hardest part would come. I would have to show my son the truth about his wife. And I prayed that he would believe me before it was too late. The next 3 days were a race against time. David and I worked non-stop. We went to the notary. We made the will. We put the house in a trust that only I could modify. We opened a new bank account where I transferred my savings. We changed the locks on my house. We made copies of all the important documents and put them in a safety deposit box at the bank. Every step we took made me feel safer, more protected, but also more aware of how close I had been to danger. If David hadn't shown up, if he hadn't warned me, I probably would have already signed something. I probably would have already let Vivian and Robert move in. And then it would have been too late. Robert called me twice during those days. He wanted to know if I had thought about their proposal, if I was ready to let them move in with me. Each time I told him the same thing. I'm still thinking. I need time. He didn't like it. I could hear the frustration in his voice. And behind that frustration, I could hear Vivian. She was surely pressuring him. She was surely telling him I was difficult, that I was stubborn, that I was selfish for not wanting help. But I no longer felt guilty. I no longer felt bad for setting boundaries. Because now I knew the truth, and the truth had freed me from guilt. On the 4th day, David came to my house with more news. I found someone who wants to talk to you. Who? The son of Richard Stone, the man who died in the nursing home, the first husband of Vivian's that we could document. I felt a chill. That man, the one in the photo, the one who had died alone. He wants to talk to me. Why? Because when I told him about your situation, he identified with it. He said that what is happening to you is exactly what happened to his father. And he wants to help you. He wants you not to end up like his father did. When can I see him? Today, if you're ready. He's waiting at a coffee shop near here. I'm ready. We went in David's car. The coffee shop was 20 minutes away. It was a quiet place, not crowded, perfect for a private conversation. Richard Stone's son was sitting at a table in the back. He was a man around 40 years old, dark hair with some grey, sad eyes. When he saw us arrive, he stood up. Mrs. Johnson? Yes, nice to meet you. The 3 of us sat down. We ordered coffee. He took a deep breath before starting to speak. My name is Ethan Stone. My father was Richard Stone. He died 3 years ago, alone, in a nursing home where I didn't even know he was. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry for me. Be sorry for him. Because he died without understanding what had happened to him, without understanding how he ended up there. Ethan took out his phone. He showed me a photo. It was his father, the same man from the photo David had shown me, but older, more fragile. My dad was a widower. My mum had died 2 years earlier. He was alone, sad. Then he met Vivian at a supermarket. She was very kind to him, very affectionate. They started dating. 3 months later, they got married. That fast? Yes. I told him to wait, to get to know her better. But he was in love, or so he thought. Vivian made him feel young again. She made him feel alive. It sounded familiar, too familiar. Except that in my case, the victim wasn't me directly. It was my son. She had charmed him to get to me. What happened next? Ethan took a sip of his coffee. His hands were trembling. The first few months were good, or so it seemed. Vivian moved in with him, into his house. the house where I grew up, where my mum had lived. She started changing things, redecorating, throwing away things that she said were no longer useful. My dad told me he was happy, that Vivian was taking very good care of him. But then things changed. Ethan ran his hands over his face. Vivian started pulling my dad away from the family, from me, from my sisters. There were always excuses, that he was tired, that he wasn't feeling well, that he needed to rest. Visits became less frequent, then almost non-existent. Like Robert with me, I thought. The same pattern. And then, out of nowhere, Vivian called us. She told us that my dad had been diagnosed with dementia, that a doctor had said he could no longer take care of himself, that she had had to take control of his finances because he could no longer manage his money. Was it true? Did he have dementia? Ethan shook his head angrily. I don't know. We never saw the diagnosis. Vivian never let us talk to the doctor. She never let us see my dad alone. She was always there, controlling everything. And when we finally managed to see my dad alone, he was confused, scared. He told us Vivian was giving him pills, a lot of pills, that he felt weird, that he didn't know what was happening. Oh my God. We tried to do something. We hired a lawyer. But by that time, Vivian had already made all the legal moves. She had power of attorney. She had control of the accounts. She had everything. And the doctor who had helped her backed up her story. Was the doctor bought off? We couldn't prove it. But yes, we believe so. And the house? She sold it. 6 months after marrying my dad. She sold it for $200,000. She kept all the money. And she institutionalized my dad in the cheapest nursing home she could find. $300 a month, in a horrible place, dirty, without proper care. Tears began to fall down my face. I couldn't stop them. The story was heartbreaking. And you couldn't get him out of there. We tried. We went to lawyers. We went to court. But Vivian had all the papers. She had legal custody. And my dad was already so deteriorated that he couldn't testify. He couldn't defend himself. Ethan wiped his eyes. He died a year later, alone, in that horrible place. The last time I saw him, he didn't recognize me. The pills had destroyed him, or the loneliness, or both. I'll never know. I'm so sorry, Ethan. He looked me straight in the eye. That's why I'm here, Mrs. Johnson. Because when David told me your story, I knew I had to warn you. Vivian is going to do the same to you. She's going to make you look incapable. She's going to find a doctor to back her up. She's going to take control of your house. And when you're no longer useful to her, she's going to leave you somewhere far from your family. And she's going to keep everything. I'm not going to let that happen. Good. Because I'm going to help you. I'm going to testify. I'm going to tell what happened to my dad. And if necessary, I'll go with you to confront your son. He needs to know who he married. David intervened. We have a plan. We're going to bring everyone together. Mary, Robert, Vivian, Ethan, me. We're going to put all the evidence on the table. We're going to show Robert the truth. And we're going to give him the chance to walk away from Vivian before it's too late. And if he doesn't believe me, what if he defends her? Then at least you will be protected. Your house will be safe. Your documents will be in order. Vivian won't be able to touch you. But your son, Ethan said. Your son will have to make his own decision, just like my dad did. I just hope he makes it before it's too late. We spent 2 more hours in that coffee shop. Ethan told me more details. He showed me documents, photos of his dad before and after meeting Vivian. The difference was heartbreaking. In the photos from before, Richard looked happy, healthy. In the photos from after, he looked lost, empty. That's not going to happen to me, I said. I'm not going to end up like that. You won't end up like that, David said, because you're stronger, because you're taking action, because you're not alone. He was right. I wasn't alone. I had David. I had Ethan. I had the truth. Now I just needed my son to see it too. That night, sitting in my living room, I made a decision. It was time to confront Robert. It was time to show him everything. It was time to give him the chance to choose. His mother or that woman. I called David. I'm ready. Organize the meeting. Are you sure? Completely sure. The longer we wait, the more dangerous it becomes. Let's do it now. All right. I'll tell Robert that you want to talk, that you have something important to tell him. He'll come with Vivian, obviously. Let him come. Let them both come. I want her to be there when I show my son who she really is. The meeting was scheduled for 2 days later, in my house. At Luke 6, Geo 0 foot in the evening. Robert immediately accepted. He probably thought I had accepted their proposal, that I was going to let them move in. He had no idea what was really waiting for him. I spent the next 2 days preparing. I organized all the documents. I put them in separate folders. One folder with the evidence about Vivian, another with my legal documents, another with the testimonies of Ethan and other victims. I also cleaned the house. I cooked. I made coffee. Not because I wanted to be hospitable, but because I needed to keep myself busy. I needed to calm my nerves. The night before the meeting, I barely slept. I stayed awake imagining how it would be, how Robert would react, how Vivian would react, if they would believe me, if they would attack me, if everything would explode. But there was no turning back. It was time for the truth to come out. And no matter what happened, I would be ready. The day arrived. I got up early, although I had barely slept. I showered. I dressed carefully. I chose a grey dress. Sober. Serious. I wanted to look strong. I wanted that when Robert looked at me, he saw the woman who had raised him. Not a victim. Not someone weak, but his mother. The woman who had always fought for him. David arrived at Luke 5, Geo 0 foot in the afternoon. He brought more documents, more evidence. Ethan arrived shortly after. He looked nervous. I was too. But there was something stronger than nerves. There was determination. We reviewed everything one last time. The plan was simple. I would start talking. I would tell Robert that I had discovered things about Vivian. I would show him the documents one by one. Ethan would give his testimony. David would explain the legal aspects. And then Robert would have to decide. At exactly Luke 6 foot, the doorbell rang. My heart jumped. I took a deep breath. I went to open the door. Robert was there, with Vivian by his side. He was smiling. She was too. They thought this was a celebration. They thought I had accepted their plan. Hi, Mum. Hello, son. Come in. They walked into the living room, and they stopped there. They saw David. They saw Ethan. They saw the documents on the table, the folders, the papers. Robert's smile disappeared. What is this, Mum? Who are these people? Please sit down. We need to talk. Vivian tensed up. Her eyes scanned the room, calculating, looking for exits, looking for strategies. I don't understand what's going on here, she said in a cold voice. You will soon understand. Sit down. Robert looked at me, confused, but he sat down. Vivian stood for a few more seconds. Finally, she sat next to him, but on the edge of the couch, ready to run if necessary. I sat across from them. David and Ethan stood behind me, as witnesses, as backup. Robert, I began. A few days ago, I received a visit. This man is David Miller. He's a lawyer. He came to tell me something that changed everything. Robert frowned. What is it? Vivian hired me. Or she tried to hire me. She asked me to investigate how she and you could claim rights to this house. She told me your mother was sick, that she needed help, that she could no longer take care of herself. Robert turned to Vivian. What? You did that? Vivian raised her hands. Robert, let me explain. I was just worried about your mum. I wanted to know what options we had to help her. That's a lie, David said. You specifically asked about mental incapacity, about how to take legal control of the property without the owner's consent. That's not true. I have the emails, Vivian. I have everything recorded. Every word you said to me. The colour drained from Vivian's face. Robert looked at her with disbelief. Vivian, is that true? She didn't answer. She just looked at David with hatred. I kept talking. My voice was firm now. It wasn't trembling. When David told me that, he started to investigate, and he discovered something else. Something you need to know, Robert. I picked up the first folder. I opened it. I took out the photo of Richard Stone. This man was named Richard Stone. He was 68 years old. He was a widower. He lived alone. And 4 years ago, he married Vivian. Robert took the photo. He looked at it. Then he looked at Vivian. You were married before. You never told me. It was a long time ago, Vivian said quickly. It has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with us, I said. Because what you did to that man is the same thing you're trying to do to us. Ethan took a step forward. That man was my father, and she destroyed him. Robert looked at him, confused, scared. Who are you? I'm Ethan Stone, Richard Stone's son, and I came to tell you what this woman did to my family. Ethan started talking. He told the whole story, how Vivian had met his father, how she had married him quickly, how she had isolated him from his family, how she had gotten a doctor to declare him incompetent, how she had sold his house, how she had institutionalized him in a horrible nursing home, how he had died alone. With every word, Robert got paler. Vivian tried to interrupt, to deny it. But Ethan had documents, evidence, photos, everything. That's not true, Vivian finally shouted. This man is lying. He's crazy. I don't know who hired him to say these things, but I have the marriage certificates, David said. I have the deed of sale for the house. I have the nursing home records. I have everything, Vivian. You can't deny it. I took more papers from another folder. And there's more, Robert. Richard wasn't the only one. We found at least 2 other cases, 2 other older men, widowers, with property. Vivian married them, and in both cases they ended up losing everything. No, no, no. Robert got up from the couch. This can't be true. Vivian, tell me it's not true. Vivian also got up. There were tears in her eyes, but I knew they were fake. Robert, my love, you have to believe me. These people are trying to separate us. Your mother has never accepted me. She hired these people to invent lies about me. I didn't hire her, I said firmly. David came on his own, because he has a conscience, because he didn't want to be an accomplice to what you were planning. I took out the last document, the most important one. And I also found this, an application you made 2 weeks ago, to the Department of Social Services, asking them to evaluate my mental health, saying that I posed a danger to myself, that I needed supervision. Robert took the paper. He read it. His hands were shaking. Vivian, you did this. It was for her own good, Robert. Your mum is alone. She's depressed. She needs professional help. I'm perfectly fine. My voice came out louder than I expected. I'm not sick. I'm not crazy. What happened is that you wanted me to be declared incompetent so you could take my house, to do the same thing to me that you did to Richard, to the others. That was your plan all along. Robert let the paper drop. He put his hands to his head. I can't believe this. I can't. David spoke calmly. Robert, your wife is a professional scammer. This is what she does. She looks for vulnerable men, men who have just lost someone. She seduces them. She marries them quickly. And then she begins the process of isolating them from their families and taking their properties. That's a lie, Vivian shouted. It's all a lie. Then explain the previous marriages, I said. Explain the documents. Explain why you hired a lawyer to investigate how to take my house. Explain why you wanted me to be declared incompetent. Vivian looked at me with pure hatred. There were no more smiles. There was no more pretense. Just rage. You, she whispered. You ruined everything. It could have been easy. You could have accepted our help. But you had to be difficult. You had to investigate. She turned to Robert. Tell these people to leave. Now. But Robert didn't move. He was in shock, looking at Vivian as if she were a stranger. Is it true? Everything they're saying. Is it true? Vivian opened her mouth. She closed her eyes. And when she opened them again, something had changed. She was no longer the sweet wife. She was someone else. Someone cold, calculating. You're an idiot, Robert. You always were. I thought I could manage you, that you could be useful, but you're as weak as your father. Robert took a step back, as if he had been hit. What did you say? I never loved you. I never cared about you. I only cared about this, she pointed around. This house. This property. $250,000. I calculated. Maybe more. And I would have gotten it if your mother hadn't been so nosy. Tears began to fall down Robert's face. Not out of fear. Out of pain. Out of betrayal. I loved you. Vivian laughed. A cold, cruel laugh. Everyone loves me. At first. It's easy to make fools like you fall in love. You act. You say what they want to hear. You make them feel special. And then when they're hooked, you start taking control. She walked toward me. David stepped in, but I stopped him with a gesture. You should have accepted my help, Mary. It would have been easier for everyone. But now you're going to have trouble. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to say you threatened me, that these men attacked me. I'm going to make your life impossible. You're not going to do anything, David said, because I have everything recorded, every word you just said. And if you try to do anything against Mrs. Johnson or Robert, I'm going to take this to the police. I'm going to take all the documents, all the evidence, and I'm going to sink you. Vivian froze. You're lying. David took out his phone. He pressed play, and there it was. Vivian's voice, her own words, her confession. It's over, Vivian. You lost. For a moment, I thought she was going to attack me. I saw the rage in her eyes. I saw her clench her fists. But David and Ethan were there, and she knew she couldn't win. She grabbed her purse. She looked at Robert one last time. You're pathetic. Like your mother. Like all of you. And she left. She slammed the door, making the walls shake. We heard her footsteps going down the stairs. We heard a car start. And then, silence. Robert collapsed on the couch, covering his face with his hands, crying, trembling. I walked over to him. I sat by his side. I put my hand on his back. "I'm sorry, Mum. I'm so sorry." I cried too, but not out of pain, out of relief, because my son had seen the truth, because there was still time, because we could still fix this. I hugged him, and he hugged me back, like when he was a child, like when he was scared and only I could protect him. "I'm sorry, Mom. I was a fool. I abandoned you. I treated you badly, and all for a woman who never loved me. It's over, son. It's over." David and Ethan discreetly withdrew. They left us alone, mother and son rebuilding what was almost destroyed forever. The following days were strange. Good, but strange. Robert stayed with me that night. He didn't want to go back to his apartment. He didn't want to be alone. I understood. He had just discovered that his entire marriage had been a lie, that the woman he thought he loved had only used him, that he had been on the verge of betraying his own mother for someone who never cared about him. I prepared the guest room, the same one he slept in when he was a child. I put on clean sheets. I brought him a cup of tea. I sat on the edge of the bed while he stared at the ceiling without saying anything. "How could I have been so blind, Mum?" "You weren't blind, son. You were human. She knew exactly what to do, what to say. She's an expert at this. I should have listened to you. I should have seen the signs. I should have—" "It's over, Robert. The important thing is that now we know the truth, and we can move forward." He turned to me. His eyes were red from crying so much. "How can you forgive me? After everything I did to you, after how I treated you?" "Because you're my son, because I love you, and because I know she manipulated you. But I also need you to understand something. I'm never going to let you treat me like that again. If we're going to be family again, it has to be a real family, with respect, with communication, with genuine love." He nodded. Tears fell again. "I promise you, Mum, never again." I hugged him, and for the first time in months, I felt like I had my son back. The next morning, David called. He had news. "Vivian tried to access Robert's bank accounts last night. She tried to take out all the money. Fortunately, Robert had blocked the cards after what happened, so she's still trying to steal." "Of course. People like her don't give up easily, but I have more news. I filed a formal complaint with all the evidence we have. The police are investigating. She might face charges." "Really?" "Really. The other cases are also being reviewed. Ethan and the other families are willing to testify. This time, Vivian is not going to get away with it." I felt relieved. Justice. Finally, some justice. Thank you, David, for everything. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come. That's why I did it, Mary, because someone has to stop people like her. Robert also spoke with a lawyer that day. He started the divorce proceedings. Vivian wasn't answering calls. She had disappeared, probably looking for her next victim, her next family to destroy. But at least we were safe. The days turned into weeks. Robert was still living with me. At first I thought it would be temporary, that any moment he would tell me he had found a new apartment, that he was going to leave. But he didn't, and I didn't ask him to, because the truth was that I liked having him there. I liked waking up and hearing noises in the house again. I liked cooking for someone else. I liked having conversations during dinner. I liked not being alone. One afternoon, while we were washing the dishes together, Robert spoke. "Mum, I've been thinking about something." "What is it?" "I want to stay here, with you, not to control you, not to take anything away from you, just to be close. to take care of each other, to be a real family. I looked at my son. I saw sincerity in his eyes. I saw regret, but I also saw love. I would like that, son. He smiled and hugged me, and I felt that finally, after so long, things were returning to their place. Robert got a new job, better paying. He started contributing to the household expenses, not because I asked him to, but because he wanted to, because it was fair, because that's how real families work. He also started going to therapy. He needed to process what had happened, the betrayal, the manipulation, everything, and I supported him. I went with him to some sessions. We talked about things we had never talked about, how I felt when he abandoned me, how he felt trapped between his wife and me, about everything. It was painful, but necessary, because wounds don't heal on their own. They need to be cleaned. They need attention. They need time. A month after the confrontation, Ethan came to visit us. He brought good news. The police arrested Vivian. They found her in another city, trying the same thing with another man. But this time, someone recognized her. Someone who had seen the news, and they called the police. Really? Really, she's going to face multiple charges: fraud, breach of trust, forgery of documents. She's going to be in jail for a long time. I sat down. I needed to process the information. Vivian, arrested, finally, after destroying so many lives, after leaving so many men alone, confused, stripped of everything. "How do you feel?" Robert asked me. Relieved, sad, angry, all at the same time. "Me too," Ethan said. "But most of all, I feel like my dad can finally rest in peace, knowing that the woman who destroyed him is going to pay for what she did." We spent the afternoon together, the three of us, sharing stories, healing. Ethan told us more about his father, about the man he had been before meeting Vivian, a good man, hard-working, loving, like my husband. And we realized that we had all been victims, each in our own way, but we also realized that we had survived, and that was what mattered. The following weeks were about rebuilding. Robert and I established new routines. We had breakfast together every morning. We had dinner together every night. On weekends, we went for walks in the park, or we went to the movies, or we simply stayed home watching old movies. It was simple. It was normal. It was what it should have always been. I also started reconnecting with my friends. Friends I had stopped seeing because I was too immersed in my pain, in my loneliness. I called them one by one. I told them what had happened. Some were surprised, others not so much. One of them, Martha, came to visit me. "I always knew that woman was bad," she told me. "I saw it in her eyes the first time I met her. But I didn't say anything because I thought you would tell me I was exaggerating. I wish you had told me. Would I have believed you?" I thought about it. Honestly, probably not. Because when we want to believe in something, when we want things to work out, we ignore the signs. We ignore the warnings. "Maybe not," I admitted. But now I would have. Martha stayed all afternoon. We had coffee. We ate cookies. We laughed. And I realized how much I had missed that. The company, genuine friendship, conversations without a hidden agenda. Robert also started going out more, reconnecting with his own friends, friends that Vivian had made him push away. Little by little, his life was becoming his own again, not hers, his. One evening, while we were having dinner, he told me something that surprised me. "Mum, I've been thinking, I want to sell my apartment." "Why?" "Because I don't need it anymore. Because I want to stay here. If you agree, of course. I looked at my son, the child I had raised, the man I had lost, the son I had recovered. You will always be welcome here, Robert. This is your house, too. He smiled, that genuine smile I hadn't seen in years. Thank you, Mum. Robert sold his apartment a month later. He used part of the money to remodel the house. We fixed the leaky roof. We painted the walls. We replaced the old furniture. We gave new life to every corner. And as we worked together, painting, hammering, cleaning, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt that I was home, really home. Not just in a building, but in a place where there was love, where there was family, where there was a future. One afternoon, while we were resting after painting the living room, Robert showed me his phone. Look at this, Mum. It was a news article. Woman arrested for multiple cases of elder fraud. Faces up to 20 years in prison. And there she was, Vivian's photo, in prison clothes, without makeup, without a smile, without masks. She looked small, defeated, nothing like the confident woman who had walked into my house months ago, trying to take everything away from me. How do you feel seeing her like this? I asked Robert. Nothing. I don't feel anything for her, just relief that she can't hurt anyone else. He put his phone away. He looked around the newly painted living room. We built something good here, Mum. Something real. Yes, son, we did. And it was true. We had taken something broken, something almost destroyed, and we had rebuilt it. It wasn't perfect. There were still scars. There were still difficult moments. But it was ours. It was real. It was family. That night, before going to sleep, I went to my room. I opened the drawer where I kept the old photos. I took out a photo of Robert when he was a child, the same one I had seen months ago, the one of the two of us in the park. Him with ice cream on his face. Me hugging him. I smiled. Because that child had returned. Not physically, but in spirit, in essence, in love. I put the photo away. I turned off the light. And I slept peacefully. For the first time in a long time, I slept without fear, without worries, without thinking that I was going to lose everything, because I was no longer alone, because my son had returned, and because together we had won. 6 months have passed since that night. 6 months since the truth came out. 6 months since I recovered my son and almost lost everything I had built in my life. Today I wake up early, as always. But now it's different. I hear noises in the kitchen. Robert is already awake. He's making coffee. I can smell the toast from my room. I get dressed slowly and go downstairs. Good morning, Mum. Good morning, son. We sit down to have breakfast together. We talk about simple things, the weather, his plans for the day, the dinner we're going to make tonight. Normal things, everyday things, but things that I took for granted before and that I now value every day. After breakfast, Robert goes to work. I stay home, but I no longer feel alone. The house has life now. It has energy. It has love. I clean a little, I prepare lunch, and then I sit on the couch with a cup of tea. I look around, the newly painted walls, the new furniture we bought together, the family photos we rehung. All of this was about to disappear. All of this was about to be hers. Vivian's. That woman who almost destroyed my family. But she didn't succeed. And that makes me feel strong. It makes me feel victorious, not because I destroyed someone, but because I defended myself, because I set boundaries, because I didn't let her. The phone rings. It's David. Mary, how are you? Good, David. Very good. I have news. Vivian's trial ended yesterday. She was sentenced to 18 years in prison, with no possibility of parole for at least 10 years. I fall silent. Processing. 18 years. Vivian is going to be in prison until she is an old woman, until she can no longer harm anyone else. Mary, are you there? Yes, I'm here. I don't know how to feel. It's normal. You don't have to feel anything specific. You just have to know that you did the right thing, that you saved your family, and that you probably saved many other families too. Thank you, David, for everything. Without you, none of this would have been possible. Without you, Mary, without your courage, without your strength, you were the one who defended herself. I just gave you the tools. I hang up the phone. I sit in silence, thinking, reflecting, on everything that happened, on everything I learned. I learned that love isn't enough if there is no respect. I learned that mothers also deserve to be cared for. I learned that setting boundaries is not selfishness, it is survival. I learned that the truth, even if it hurts, is always better than the comfortable lie. And I learned that it's never too late to take back what is yours. Your dignity, your family, your life. That afternoon, Martha comes to visit me. We bring out cake and coffee. We sit in the backyard. It's warm, but there's a pleasant breeze. You look good, Mary. You look peaceful. I feel peaceful. Did you hear about Vivian? Yes. David called me a few hours ago. And how do you feel? Relieved. Sad for all the families she destroyed, but relieved that she can't do it anymore. Martha nods. She takes a sip of her coffee. You know, when all this started, I thought you were going to give up. I thought you were going to let them take everything away from you. But you didn't. You fought. And you won. I didn't feel strong at the time. I felt scared. Courage is not the absence of fear, Mary. It's acting despite the fear. She's right. I was afraid. Very afraid. Afraid of losing my house. Afraid of losing my son. Afraid of ending up alone somewhere forgotten. But I acted anyway. I defended myself anyway. And that changed me. I am no longer the same woman I was 6 months ago. That woman was broken. She was lost. She was willing to accept crumbs of love just not to be alone. But this woman, the one I am now, knows her worth. She knows what she deserves. And she won't accept less. At night, Robert comes home. He brings flowers, a small bouquet of daisies, my favorites. What's this for? Just because. Because I love you. Because you saved my life. Son, you saved me too. We have dinner together. Robert tells me about his day, about a new project at work, about a co-worker he likes, normal things, everyday things, but they mean everything. After dinner, we wash the dishes together, and while we do it, Robert speaks. Mum, I've been thinking about something. What is it? I want to do something good with all this. Something that gives meaning to what we went through. Like what? I want to help other families. I want to work with David, create a foundation or something like that, to help older people who are being manipulated, to prevent what almost happened to us from happening to them. I stop. I put down the plate I was washing. I look at my son with tears in my eyes. That's beautiful, Robert. Do you think it's a good idea? I think it's the best idea you've ever had. And that's how pain transforms. It doesn't disappear. It's not forgotten. But it transforms into something useful, into something that can help others, into something with purpose. Robert starts working on his project. He talks to David. He talks to Ethan. He talks to the other families who are victims of Vivian. And little by little, the idea takes shape. 2 months later, they launch the foundation. It is called Dignity and Family. Its mission is simple: to protect older people from scammers, to educate families about the signs of manipulation, to provide free legal aid to those who need it. The first person to donate is Ethan. He donates $10,000 in memory of his father. I also donate $5,000. Money I had saved for years, money I almost lost. But that will now help others. The foundation grows. They help 3 families the first month, 7 the second, 12 the third. Every family with its own story. Every family on the verge of losing everything. But now they have help. They have hope. And I feel proud. Proud of my son. Proud of having fought. Proud of having turned something horrible into something good. One afternoon, while I'm in the backyard watering the plants, I see a woman walking down the street. She stops in front of my house. She looks at the number. Then she rings the doorbell. I open the door. She is a woman around 50 years old. She looks tired, worried. Mrs. Mary Johnson. Yes, this is me. My name is Irene. My mother is in trouble. I read about your story in the newspaper, about what happened with your daughter-in-law, and I think something similar is happening to my mother. I invite her in. I make her coffee, and I listen to her story. A story similar to mine. A new man in her mother's life. Promises, strange changes, isolation. All the signs. I give her David's number. I give her the foundation's number. I tell her what I did, how I protected myself, how I saved my house, my life. She cries, tears of relief, of hope. Thank you. You don't know how much this means. After she leaves, I sit in the living room, thinking about how a tragedy can become purpose, about how pain can be the beginning of something good. That night, before going to sleep, I write in my diary. It's something new I started a few months ago. My therapist recommended it. She says it helps to process, to heal. I write about everything that happened, about Vivian, about Robert, about David, about Ethan, about the foundation, about Irene, about everything. And at the end, I write this. Today I understood something. My life didn't end when my husband died. It didn't end when my son abandoned me. It didn't end when that woman tried to take everything away from me. My life continued. And it continues. And as long as I have strength, I will keep fighting. For myself, for my family, for all the people who need to know that they are not alone, that they can defend themselves, that they can win. I close the diary. I turn off the light. And I sleep peacefully. For the first time in a long time, I sleep without fear, without worries, without thinking that I was going to lose everything. Because I am no longer alone. Because my son has returned. And because together, we had won. 6 months have passed since that night. 6 months since the truth came out. 6 months since I recovered my son and almost lost everything I had built in my life. Today I wake up early, as always. But now it's different. I hear noises in the kitchen. Robert is already awake. He's making coffee. I can smell the toast from my room. I get dressed slowly and go downstairs. Good morning, Mum. Good morning, son. We sit down to have breakfast together. We talk about simple things, the weather, his plans for the day, the dinner we're going to make tonight, normal things, everyday things, but things that I took for granted before and that I now value every day. After breakfast, Robert goes to work. I stay home, but I no longer feel alone. The house has life now. It has energy. It has love. I clean a little. I prepare lunch. And then I sit on the couch with a cup of tea. I look around. The newly painted walls. The new furniture we bought together. The family photos we rehung. All of this was about to disappear. All of this was about to be hers. Vivian's. That woman who almost destroyed my family. But she didn't succeed. And that makes me feel strong. It makes me feel victorious. Not because I destroyed someone, but because I defended myself. Because I set boundaries. Because I didn't let her. The phone rings. It's David. Mary, how are you? Good, David. Very good. I have news. Vivian's trial ended yesterday. She was sentenced to 18 years in prison, with no possibility of parole for at least 10 years. I fall silent. Processing. 18 years. Vivian is going to be in prison until she is an old woman, until she can no longer harm anyone else. Mary, are you there? Yes, I'm here. I don't know how to feel. It's normal. You don't have to feel anything specific. You just have to know that you did the right thing, that you saved your family, and that you probably saved many other families too. Thank you, David, for everything. Without you, nothing of this would have been possible. Without you, Mary, without your courage, without your strength, you were the one who defended herself. I just gave you the tools. I hang up the phone. I sit there in silence, thinking, reflecting, on everything that happened, on everything I learned. I learned that love isn't enough if there is no respect. I learned that mothers also deserve to be cared for. I learned that setting boundaries is not selfishness, it is survival. I learned that the truth, even if it hurts, is always better than the comfortable lie. And I learned that it's never too late to take back what is yours. Your dignity, your family, your life. That afternoon, Martha comes to visit me. We bring out cake and coffee. We sit in the backyard. It's warm, but there's a pleasant breeze. You look good, Mary. You look peaceful. I feel peaceful. Did you hear about Vivian? Yes. David called me a few hours ago. And how do you feel? Relieved. Sad for all the families she destroyed, but relieved that she can't do it anymore. Martha nods. She takes a sip of her coffee. You know, when all this started, I thought you were going to give up. I thought you were going to let them take everything away from you. But you didn't. You fought. And you won. I didn't feel strong at that moment. I felt scared. Courage is not the absence of fear, Mary. It's acting despite the fear. She's right. I was afraid. Very afraid. Afraid of losing my house. Afraid of losing my son. Afraid of ending up alone somewhere forgotten. But I acted anyway. I defended myself anyway. And that changed me. I am no longer the same woman I was 6 months ago. That woman was broken. She was lost. She was willing to accept crumbs of love just not to be alone. But this woman, the one I am now, knows her worth. She knows what she deserves, and she won't accept less. At night, Robert comes home. He brings flowers, a small bouquet of daisies, my favorites. What's this for? Just because I love you, because you saved my life. Son, you saved me too. We have dinner together. Robert tells me about his day, about a new project at work, about a co-worker he likes, normal things, everyday things. But they mean everything. After dinner, we wash the dishes together. And while we do it, Robert speaks. Mum, I've been thinking about something. What is it? I want to do something good with all this. Something that gives meaning to what we went through. Like what? I want to help other families. I want to work with David, create a foundation or something like that, to help older people who are being manipulated, to prevent what almost happened to us from happening to them. I stop. I put down the plate I was washing. I look at my son with tears in my eyes. That's beautiful, Robert. Do you think it's a good idea? I think it's the best idea you've ever had. And that's how pain transforms. It doesn't disappear. It's not forgotten. But it transforms into something useful, into something that can help others, into something with purpose. Robert starts working on his project. He talks to David, he talks to Ethan, he talks to the other families who were victims of Vivian, and little by little, the idea takes shape. 2 months later, they launch the foundation. It is called Dignity and Family. Its mission is simple: to protect older people from scammers, to educate families about the signs of manipulation, to provide free legal aid to those who need it. The first person to donate is Ethan. He donates $10,000 in memory of his father. I also donate $5,000. Money I had saved for years, money I almost lost. But that will now help others. The foundation grows. They help 3 families the first month, 7 the second, 12 the third. Every family with its own story, every family on the verge of losing everything. But now they have help. They have hope. And I feel proud. Proud of my son. Proud of having fought. Proud of having turned something horrible into something good. One afternoon, while I'm in the backyard watering the plants, I see a woman walking down the street. She stops in front of my house. She looks at the number. Then she rings the doorbell. I open the door. She is a woman around 50 years old. She looks tired, worried. Mrs. Mary Johnson? Yes, this is me. My name is Irene. My mother is in trouble. I read about your story in the newspaper, about what happened with your daughter-in-law, and I think something similar is happening to my mother. I invite her in. I make her coffee, and I listen to her story, a story similar to mine, a new man in her mother's life, promises, strange changes, isolation, all the signs. I give her David's number. I give her the foundation's number. I tell her what I did, how I protected myself, how I saved my house, my life. She cries, tears of relief, of hope. Thank you. You don't know how much this means. After she leaves, I sit in the living room, thinking about how a tragedy can become purpose, about how pain can be the beginning of something good. That night, before going to sleep, I write in my diary. It's something new I started a few months ago. My therapist recommended it. She says it helps to process, to heal. I write about everything that happened, about Vivian, about Robert, about David, about Ethan, about the foundation, about Irene, about everything. And at the end, I write this. Today, I understood something. My life didn't end when my husband died. It didn't end when my son abandoned me. It didn't end when that woman tried to take everything away from me. My life continued. And it continues. And as long as I have strength, I will keep fighting. For myself, for my family, for all the people who need to know that they are not alone, that they can defend themselves, that they can win. I close the diary. I turn off the light. And I sleep peacefully. For the first time in a long time, I sleep without fear, without worries, without thinking that I was going to lose everything. because I am no longer alone, because my son has returned, and because together we had won. My name is Mary Johnson. I am 60 years old, and this is my house, bought with my money, with my sweat, with 30 years of honest work. And here I will stay, surrounded by true love, surrounded by real family, surrounded by dignity, because that is what I deserve. That is what we all deserve. And if you are going through something similar, I want you to know this. You are not alone. There is help. There is hope. There is a way out. You just have to take the first step. You just have to defend yourself. You just have to remember who you are and what you are worth. Because no one has the right to take away your dignity. No one has the right to steal your life. No one has the right to make you feel less. You are strong. You are valuable. You are important. And you deserve respect. You deserve love. You deserve to live in peace in your own house, surrounded by people who truly love you. Don't give up. Don't let yourself be defeated. Fight. Like I did, like many others have done, like you can do too, because in the end, the truth always wins, justice always comes, and true love always remains. And that is the most important thing of all.